Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Schifrin, Chairman of the Planning Board, and I'm calling this meeting to order of Monday, February 27th at 6:31 p.m. I'd like a roll call vote, please. Roll call attendance, please.
Ian Ortiz present.
Cox is present.
Robert Darian present.
And Laura Schifrin present. Michael will be joining us. The meeting is being recorded. I'm not sure why that's always duplicated because we hear it before we start, yet it becomes 1.3 on the agenda. We should think about that one. I'd like us to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to thank all of our veterans as well as all of those currently serving to protect our freedoms. And thank you, Ian, once again. Chairman's, of course, there's always that need. Chairman's additions, deletions to the agenda are foreseen prior to 48 hours of this meeting. I really have none to add except that I will draw your attention to the header on our agenda, which will not look like that for March or any other documents from now on, as there was an error on it. And that has been corrected today. It is Michael's term that's up on 2023, and Carol's term is 2026. So I'm just drawing, Beth has that correction, and that will be on all of our future correspondence, decisions, etc. Beth, was there anything else that I should mention except that we are we'll be voting on April 24th, I think it is, and that any papers for the election are due March 4th, I believe.
That's great. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, the town clerk can answer the questions about the annual election.
Yep. And also, if you go to her website, the town website also has the information on the clerk's page. Have there been any volunteer forms that have come in, Beth?
No.
Okay.
Good.
So, our next thing on the agenda, we have about 10 minutes. So, seeing that, I'd like to go down to, if it pleases the board, okay, I will mention now that number 3, we will not be doing tonight. Again, if it pleases the board, we have a number of you at Town Hall, and it is supposed to start snowing at 7. So I know that we're going to go past 7 and probably maybe closer to 8 o'clock, but I don't want to delay the meeting any longer than that, just so that all of you get home safe. Is everyone okay with just foregoing number 3 tonight?
I'm okay with it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Carol, sure. Well, I've already got the notice that they closed Town Hall for tomorrow. So I think that that's probably a prudent thing for us to do here. And number 4, 4.1, Beth, would you take that? The FY 2024 Unified Planning Work Program Project Proposal?
Yeah. The town has put in a project request, and I'll just pull it up very quickly. So you can have a look at it.
I saw that. I was excited
Yeah, good.
because this morning I had to leave early for a doctor's appointment, like around 7:15.
Uh-huh.
And there was a big accident right past Proctor Road going up the hill, but before the crest of the hill. So there's only one lane of traffic getting by because they had the cops and the ambulance and the fire trucks and the cars and the tow trucks and
Uh-oh.
I thought.
What time is that?
It was about 7:15, 7:30, somewhere around this morning.
No.
Okay, so here
First
is,
responders are always busy.
so this is a written, request. And, you all have it in your files, but, working together with the town of Groton and Pepperell, we've had some letters of support from the planners, the town administrators, town manager of Groton, and their support of this project proposal. And what I'll put up the map, the study map as well, but in particular, the study area requested is the intersection of Proctor Road and Townsend Road with Route 119, the intersection of Proctor Road and Townsend Road with Route 119 in conjunction with the intersection of North Middlesex Regional High School and Harbor Village Mall. The offset nature of the intersection of Proctor Road and Townsend Road with 119, the offset nature of the Harbor Village Mall and North Middlesex Regional High School intersection with Route 119, the traffic coming down the hill on Route 119 from Route 113 to the intersection of Proctor Road and Townsend Road, the pedestrian crosswalks on Route 119 at North Middlesex Regional High School and along Route 119 at that location, the walkability along this section of Route 119, an alternate entrance to North Middlesex Regional High School along Proctor Road, and curb cuts along Route 119 from North Middlesex Regional High School westward to the traffic light at South Street and Route 119. And there's a map of that area that I'll just put up real brief. The area of corridor study for a traffic management plan. And just thank you everyone for sending in the letters of support for this. This has already been submitted to MRPC, the transportation group at our planning commission. The Board of Selectmen submitted that last Friday.
And we're hoping that goes really well. This is exciting that they're doing more regional things now with other towns so that they're not repeating the same thing, but can include everyone or as many towns as they can. Thank you, Beth. 4.2 is just an update on storm management projects. Are there any this month?
I'm trying to unshare.
There's no one doing that monthly right now, right?
Yeah, the land use department is, I'm trying to, stop there. Okay. Sorry, so stormwater permit project updates, yes. Every stormwater management permit in town is being monitored on a monthly basis, if in fact monthly reports are required, and an annual basis, if that is also required. I did put in the folders the stormwater management permit that was just endorsed by the board for 5 Turnpike Road. So now that that has been filed with the town clerk, that is in the folder for stormwater projects, and it's going to be indexed and monitored by the land use office staff. Anytime a report needs to be, reviewed, it'll come into me, and then I'll in turn forward it to the board at the next meeting. So,
Okay.
But we didn't receive anything for this meeting in terms of correspondence and reports. So there's nothing in there, but you do have a new one that you just approved. So, and just a quick update on 25 Harbor Trace, that as soon as you sign it will also be So I have that tonight. I think I just need Carol and Robert to sign that. and-
Okay,
And it's good. And that's all for stormwater.
Yeah, guys, I think myself and Michael signed it today in
Yeah.
person.
Perfect.
Okay, we've got just a few minutes now. Do we have a lot of notices tonight? Should I
No.
wait?
No, we don't have a lot.
So 4.3? Carol, I'll quickly ask, do you have an update on Safe Routes?
no, I don't have anything, no
Okay.
updates.
Okay, we have a notice of decision from, Town of Lunenburg, site plan approval. And it was approved for site signage at 475 Leominster Shirley Road. That is on by Town of Groton. A public hearing notice by the planning board. And this is for the proposed amendment to Groton zoning bylaw, chapter 218. The proposed amendments will clarify the provisions in section 218-9.4 accessory apartments and will update the definition of accessory apartment in section 218-3 definitions with respect to the maximum floor area of accessory apartments. That public hearing will be held on March 16th. It's a Thursday, and it is Zoom. It'll be held virtually at 7:45 on Thursday, March 16th.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did we is there a place where we can compare theirs to ours?
I can request the amendments for the board and then
Oh, that'd
send
be
them.
great.
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because these things always get tweaked, and who knows, maybe they have something better than what we have. Okay, so we're at, is there anything on the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative? That's just announcing the conference?
Yep, and there was one more notice, sorry. It's from Groton Planning Board, and this is a special permit that was issued for a shared driveway. And it's from the Town of Groton Planning Board, if anyone has interest. I'm sorry, that's a public hearing that hasn't happened yet. It's also on March 16th, to a special permit for a shared driveway serving 3 lots, as shown on the Hayeswood definitive subdivision plan, pending before the board, prepared by Dillison.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so that's going on. That is a virtual hearing, and the information is there. So you asked about the Citizen Planning Trainer, or the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative Annual Conference on March 18th. It's a full-day conference, and planning board members are encouraged to attend if, and as well as zoning board of appeals members. So
Is
if
it
you
a
guys,
daytime thing?
yeah, it's Saturday. It's at Holy Cross College. And that's
Okay, you had sent that to everyone. I'd like to call the public hearing meeting to order at 6:45 at 22 regarding 22 Main Street, site plan review special permit.
Good evening. It's Stan Dillis. I'm here representing Dr. Thurber. I know you, Laura, you want to move things along. Beth, if you could share on your screen drawing 1.0, I think we can cover all the topics here that we
Okay.
need to.
While she's doing that, let me go through convening or reconvening the public hearing. If I could have the board announce themselves, please.
Ian Ortiz present.
Carol Hoffs is present.
Robert Therian present.
And I believe Michael is now with us. Michael?
I'm here, sorry, I'm actually on a computer, so it took me a
Okay.
second to hit the mute button.
I know we all had that. Okay, and Michael is here and Laura Schifrin. And then is there anyone else here for the public hearing besides the engineer Stan Dillis? I don't see anybody.
You like to, no, that's okay. I'm good with the computer.
Okay, all right, Stan.
I apologize for jumping the gun, Lori. I didn't mean
That's
to
okay.
step on your toes.
You didn't step on my toes. I just know what I have to do first. So that's okay. So go for it. Your turn.
All right. This is the layout that we showed you in a preliminary fashion at the last meeting, and we finalized it. And on this sheet, we've documented the required number of parking spaces based on the size of the building, which is 7. And we have 8, one of which being a handicap. We have a planting plan for around the parking lot in front of the building. And we have some specs for pavement and so forth. And there's some specs and details on some other sheets. And after the last meeting, Beth forwarded me all the mandatory referrals that she had gotten before. And I summarized those and responded to all those in a letter that I sent you guys. And I think there's a couple of them that warrant a little discussion. The Board of Health pointed out that we can't have parking over the septic system, and by this design, we do not. The building commissioner just commented on the number of parking spaces, which we have, and he further commented today when Beth asked him if we needed a stormwater permit, and he agreed with my assessment that we don't trigger the thresholds to require a stormwater permit. And the other thing that warrants discussion is a Mass Highway curb cut permit, and the highway superintendent recommended that we go to the Mass DOT SHAP site, which we did, and we included a memo that shows our site on the Mass. It's the State Highway Access Permit site. SHAPS is the acronym for that. It shows our site, and then it shows the message that says we do not need for this driveway. So I think we've touched all the bases. I know this has been a long ordeal for the planning board. We've submitted drainage calculations that show we're mitigating the runoff in a basin that we're creating behind the building that's in a existing depression. So there'll be some regrading there, but nothing that significant. And the site's relatively flat, and we don't have any real big grade changes to accomplish this parking scheme. The building will have a handicap ramp in the front, which is required by ADA, and that's why that handicap space is in the front. We did request, or we need a waiver to allow that space to be within the front setback, but we can't. There's really nowhere else on the site we can put it and have handicap access. There's no viable rear access for a handicap spot. And it makes sense that it would be in the front. If somebody came in that needed a handicap spot and or an emergency drop off for a sick animal, that front access would be the closest and the most convenient way to get into the building. So, and our total disturbance on the site is about 27,000 square feet, including the detention basin, which will be just naturally vegetated after this is all done. So, we have our planting plan. We have a dumpster with an enclosure, and we have a couple of sign details for the handicap spot and some bollards in a couple of locations. So I think that's all I have to tell you about. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, Stan, before I have the board members ask something, I want to go over some notes that I have here. So we have your updated site plan, And you just described that. And then long-term pollution prevention plan.
Yeah, we've submitted an O&M plan and a long-term pollution prevention plan as part of the package that we submitted.
Okay. And operation and maintenance plan.
That, again, that's part of the whole package that we submitted.
Okay, as well as you're saying that the building inspector said that a stormwater management plan was not necessary for this?
Right. I contended that was the case, and Beth confirmed that with Eric today, I believe. I'm correct in saying that, right, Beth?
Yeah, I did send an email to Eric Bertrand. He reviewed the submittal and he did not feel like this particular application triggered the stormwater management permit application.
The building
And
is-
interesting enough, he in his first referral letter, when Dr. Thurber had submitted more like a sketch, he didn't comment on it then either. So I think we have a 6-month consistency of him saying we don't need one, and our research of the regulations say we don't trigger the thresholds either.
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
the building commissioner will not necessarily put that in his determination letter, just for future projects. That's something that anytime a site plan review is submitted, you need to apply or get a determination from the land use coordinator. And right now, that's a vacant position, so.
Right, we don't have
You're
really.
better, yeah, checking in when you file.
Okay,
Although
so,
he did comment on Country Estates relative to a stormwater permit, so it's
Yeah,
not that he won't, but I
Right.
get maybe he has to be asked.
it's not typical, yeah. And he has been asked because the position's vacant, so that's why I've been referring to him.
okay. Well, with all this in front of us now, and just as a side note, we do have the number of board members here necessary in attendance and who have been acquainted with this for the past 6 months or so. I guess I'll ask the question of the board. Do you feel that the new or adjusted site plan with this, in particular, the MassDOT jurisdiction, which gets you an answer by putting a pin on I mean, I couldn't tell you if that's where it was or not, and I know you're the engineer, I'm not, but it seems pretty close there to that town line. I'm not sure. Should this go back to the departments for their final say on this now that we have the peer review done and the answers to the peer review? What is
Excuse
the
me,
pleasure of the board?
excuse me, this is not a peer review.
Oh,
This is a design. that the
sorry.
board requested. That's okay.
Yeah, but didn't we have a peer review?
No, not on 22 Main
Before?
Street.
Not on 22
No.
Main.
This is the first site plan that. the
Forgive
board-
me.
Okay. Yep, this is your first site plan, your first look at it.
Okay. Is there going to be a peer review?
Should be, right?
I don't know. That's at the discretion of the board.
Okay,
Well,
so isn't that normal?
I would say that that would be up to you guys to decide, but where we don't trigger stormwater permit and we don't trigger a mass highway curb cut permit, I think that what they would peer review would be pretty limited. They would look at Do we have the required number of parking spaces? Are we meeting all the other requirements of site plan review? And I guess that would be you guys' call, but in my mind, there's not a whole terrible amount for them to peer review here.
Mhm.
But that's not my call.
Right. Beth, do you have any comments in reference to that?
I think that's a lot of activity on a very small site. And it would be up to the board. I know I technically can't do the technical peer review and engineering peer review, and there's no one in town hall who can.
Okay.
So that's really up to you.
I have some very strong reservations about the driveway set up there. And, can I have a clarification from Mr. Dills? What's happening with Mass Highway there?
There's a website you go to. It's called State Highway Access Permit Search, and that's what the highway superintendent recommended that we go to, and we go to that all the time. We have an account, and you click on your site, and they tell you whether it's in the jurisdiction or not of needing a curb cut permit. And when we clicked on this site, and I provided this information to Beth, that it says we do not need a permit. So that's the only place we go to find out if we need a permit or not. And we went to that site and clicked on our site, and it says we don't need a permit. So that's the only thing I can tell you.
I'm not sure where to go with this because the concern of the driveway and the activity in that area with the heavy traffic. I mean, we just went through the fact that we're going to be doing this study,
Right.
for safe roads, and where do we go to get the answers that we need to make sure that this is correct? Highway Department, right to Mass State. I mean, what would be our next step to get assurances that we can feel comfortable with?
Could I just make a suggestion that maybe this gets sent out for another round of mandatory referrals, and then we can see where that goes from there?
I mean, I would certainly think that's probably the least we could do. And I don't know if by doing that we get a clearer direction. So Beth, I know that we probably won't have a full board on the 13th, but on the 27th, hopefully we will. At least the 4 people that we have.
March 27th?
Yeah.
March 27th.
I won't be available. I'll be out of state that week. Maybe, let me just get my calendar. Night later.
Laurie, could I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, Stan, on your long-term pollution prevention plan,
Yes.
under snow melt management, snow plowing, it is expected that the site will be plowed by the Groton DPW once the road is accepted.
Oh, that's erroneous. No, yeah, that's erroneous. I apologize. That should be said. Will be plowed. I will fix that. Will be plowed by the property owner.
Okay, I was just reading it as
No,
like,
that's
okay.
yeah. No, that's a
I figured that was a typo or left over from another plan. I wanted
yeah.
to
It's
get your
the
attention.
it's the curse of cut and paste.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes you miss things. So we'll fix that.
Okay,
That was good, Carol. So what's the pleasure of the board? It looks like we're not going to make a decision tonight. It looks like we want more information. think some of the,
So
I'm
I,
kind of confused on what are you concerned with the driveway? Is that the issue?
I'm concerned with, I mean, can we just go back to the site plan a second?
so I have a question. Sorry, Robert, that I jump on. The whole let me pull it out again. The comments from the health department on the site plan. The reasoning for the septic for them having a problem with the septic, is it because the number 1 and 2 parking lot are too close to the septic, and in case of like two trucks or something might be they might, I don't know, put too much pressure into the area?
No, I think that comment was before this
Okay.
design existed. In the previous design, I think the sketch that Dr. Thurber had submitted showed parking on top of the septic system, and the Board of Health didn't want to see that. So we addressed that by keeping the parking off of the septic system.
Okay. All right.
And that's why I think that maybe another round of mandatory referrals, now that there's actually a plan that has been engineered and designed, might not be a bad idea.
Okay.
I appreciate that, Stan. I think it's a good idea.
No,
So,
and it's not like they're not gonna start construction here next week anyhow, because it's winter. So if it goes for another, if it gets extended for another couple of weeks or something, I don't see that as a problem.
all right. Can I get the board to look at their calendars? Because we already now I've got a board member missing on the 13th and a board member missing on the 27th. So, do we go to April 3rd?
Yeah, April 10th. Okay. The next one.
Well, what I'm saying is if maybe we don't do one or the other in March, and we go to the 3rd. I mean, the 10th, the 9th is Easter. 10th is probably a holiday then, or not?
I could make the 3rd.
I mean, we have enough time to post, Beth, right, for the 3rd?
Yep, yes.
I'm going to suggest that we do that and perhaps forego, well, we'll talk about which one to forego after, or I guess maybe we would have to discuss that now because the 13th would be coming up first versus the 27th.
Let me just check on what we have already scheduled.
Stan, are you good with the 3rd?
April 3rd,
Yeah.
if that's what it has to be, because there won't be enough members that can vote.
I need four board members.
Right. And there won't be, what I'm hearing is on the March 13th or March 27th, there won't be 4 board members that can vote. So it's going to have to go to, it has to go to whenever there's enough people that
Right.
can vote. So,
So the meetings that we have we do have an April 10th meeting already scheduled.
Oh.
That's the normal April meeting, and then that is the only meeting in April because of the annual town election.
Oh.
So we only have that one. There's only one. And I don't know if I can add in the 3rd. I'd have to check with TCAM on that.
What's wrong with the 13th?
Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe we do the 3rd and the 10th, and we give up one of the March meetings. We'll probably get more done, and the weather will be better, and maybe we'll all be in person. Well, maybe not everybody, but maybe more of us.
So you're suggesting,
I'm suggesting that we continue this to April 3rd, if we're able to hold a meeting.
okay,
If for some reason that doesn't pan out, we will put it on the 10th. So you've got two
Okay.
options.
because I'll have to find out whether or not we can actually get the third, but I'm sure we can meet in person if we need to. So April 3rd?
Yeah.
At what time?
6:45, the same.
Alrighty.
Is everyone good with that on the board?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until 6:45 on April 3rd. Did I hear that motion?
Laura, I'd like to have a little more discussion on the site plan. Just so that, if there's any other options, before the meeting on it, they can be addressed.
Robert, I just want to say, I'm trying to get a time here. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes. We do want to get feedback from all the departments again. And as we get that feedback, Beth will get us the referrals. And if there's something that we see that we want to have expounded on, then we should get the answers to those questions from the different departments, I think, unless you're looking for something from someone else.
So I just wanted to give some commentary, so.
Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes, Robert, all right? Because we've got the 7:15. Go ahead.
It's more challenging here. I'm just very concerned. We're having troubles on that whole highway stretch right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there were other options on relocating the driveway. It's so close to the other driveway. And I was told before that they're just keeping the same residential driveway. However, the volume on that driveway is going to increase, not dramatically. So I didn't know if that driveway could be located more towards the middle, and give some distance between the two driveways. And then I had one more question for I didn't understand, from Mr. Gills. I'm not sure exactly what a straw wattle is.
What?
Straw wattle?
Oh, a straw wattle. It's erosion control device. It's like a hay bale, only it's a round tube filled with straw.
Is it short term or long term?
Oh, short term during construction.
Oh, okay.
It's to prevent any sediment during construction.
Okay, it's like an order of conditions you would have.
Right. Yeah, it's like a hay bale line, only it's a different mechanism.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so are we good now? Can I get a motion to continue the public hearing for 22 Main Street to Monday, April 3rd at 6:45 p.m.?
Madam Chair, could I interrupt?
Sure. Will you announce yourself, please?
Chaz Sexton, I'm the liaison to the planning board.
Yes.
I want you guys to understand that we're asking for MRPC to help us with a study in
Yes.
that entire area. I think that needs to be brought out just so that you guys know that we're looking at from Proctor Road all the way into Townsend Harbor.
Chaz, if I may, Chaz, we just told them, we went over the Unified Planning Work Program project. And
Okay.
all the streets were read into the record.
Okay.
of that before we started this hearing. We
Okay.
were able to do our correspondence, but I thank you. Okay. Did I get that motion?
Yeah, I think
I-
Robert did.
Make a motion that we continue this hearing to April 3rd.
I second the motion.
Okay, at 6:45 PM.
At 6:45 p.m.
Okay, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ian
Carol,
Ortiz,
Robert Therian.
And I heard Carol, I heard Robert, I heard Ian. Michael?
Michael, yes.
Okay, and Laura Schifrin, yes. Okay, thank you very much, Stan. Appreciate
Thank-
your efforts as always.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we are at 7:12, and this is just a joint meeting, so I am going to allow, is everyone on? Courtney, Natalie, Chaz, and me. So everyone is here. Do we have to, I should know this probably, but do we have to, okay, somebody's going to be back in two, but do we have to call our meeting to order again? Beth? Where it's a joint
No.
meeting?
Yeah,
Okay,
the,
that's what I thought. So, but Courtney does.
yeah.
Okay. So it's up to you guys. We're at 7:13, because it's not a public hearing kind of thing. I think you can call to order at least, if you like.
So it is 7:13 p.m. on February 27th, and I'd like to call to order the Townsend Housing Authority meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Natalie Call, present.
Chaz Sexton Duranian present.
Laura Schifrin, wearing two hats, present.
And Courtney.
Okay, and joining us is Jody. And I think that's everyone. Okay. So Jody, Courtney, I'll give you the floor. And
Sure.
while you're doing that, Beth, could you share the documents that were in the portal for us all? And Courtney, you can give the background.
Sure. So we went ahead and took a look at several different towns in Massachusetts, ones that were adjacent to us, as well as ones that were similar to us in characteristics in terms of population and kind of utility availability. And we looked at that and kind of came up with some ideas on some modifications that we wanted to make to our proposed zoning. And we kind of focused on three areas with this. One was single family, multifamily, and then the addition of a cluster, a kind of cluster zoning. So what you're seeing here first is single family. What I've noted here is that the existing is in the gray and proposed is in yellow. And this is based on just the residential A and residential B district right now. The other things we've added here is also a provision for a hammerhead or flag lots. So I don't know if you've had a chance to review this, if anybody has any questions.
Everybody did get it. And I'm trying to pull, I don't see it. Beth, were you able to put it on a screen share or no? I'm gonna go into the portal.
It's, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the screen, yeah.
Oh, just me. Just me.
There you go. She mentioned Hammerhead Lot, which is down here.
Yeah, maybe Beth, could you try to like share? Sometimes that helps, like get somebody's screen back.
Try to do what?
Maybe unshare and then reshare it. Maybe to try to get it back to Lori.
I actually, I went into my portal, so I
Okay.
just have, I have you guys in a row on the right of me, and I have it in front of me.
Okay,
Doesn't want to do any fancy footwork.
Okay.
that's okay. So what we're seeing here is like our existing residential A, for instance, is currently is a 3-acre lot with 200 feet of frontage. The front yard setback is 50 feet, side yard and rear yard are 15 feet. So what we're proposing is a smaller lot here, for a 2-acre lot with 100 feet of frontage, keeping the front yard, side yard, and rear yard setbacks the same. And then similarly in residential B, we are currently a 2-acre lot with a 200 feet of frontage, same kind of setbacks with front yard, side yard, and rear yard. What we're proposing is to drop down to 1 acre, a frontage of 100 feet, a front yard setback of 30 feet, but keeping the side yard and the rear yard the same.
Any thoughts from the board?
Hey, Lauren, I have one thought. I'm a little concerned about the frontage and the acres going down to 1 and 100 with the 30 backdrop. I'm just thinking of some of these areas that are off the water district. You know, we are on the water district, it's fine, you know, Townsend Water, you know, you don't have to worry about too much. But when you start getting into the wells and going into the aquifers and things like that, and then you got septics and things, that's just my concern. Other than that, I think this looks pretty good.
So to that, obviously, a septic design would only be granted if it was 100 feet away from the water. Nobody's asking here to reduce any code issues, so, or qualifications, if you will. But that I understand a situation where if there's 2 adjacent lots that both have houses and their septic systems happen to be on, say, one house has it on the right side and the other house has it on the left side, which is not normally the situation. Usually it would be in the front or the rear. But that there may be, I'm not sure how the Board of Health looks at that. Do they look at what's next door to see what that design is like, to make sure that the 2 septic systems are within, or not within 100 feet of each other? I'm always the one that says I think the Board of Health should decide.
Yeah, I just want to bring it up in general conversation because it's just something I get a little worried about, especially, you know, my main job is lending, so I look at this as a lending standpoint.
Yeah.
So there's certain products, especially rural housing, stuff like that, that require it to be so far away, and 100 feet doesn't give you much, especially when builders are building bigger houses, not starter homes, unfortunately, right now, which is what we need.
Yeah. So I'll ask the rest of the members of both boards, what is there an asterisk type of sentence that could be put under this that would qualify that these are to be only within the code or only within something that would be approved by the Board of Health? Or, and how do we, the only question I don't know the answer to is how does the Board of Health look at adjoining lots with septic systems? Obviously, Timberley Park were half-acre lots. They were all sandy soil. They were on a public, quasi-public when they were built, because it was one municipal well system, not municipal, but one well system for the community. And of course, today's regulations would be different. So, because the half acre isn't allowed. I just don't know how the Board of Health addresses that. But I would certainly look for their input. Sending this to the Board of Health before a public hearing type of thing for the change, to get their input as to what they suggest would be something that would be workable or viable.
Lori, if we could get maybe the water department too to comment, because
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm thinking just off the water district personally, just because I've never lived in a house. I've only lived in one house in Townsend that was on town water. On what that would do to, I'm not a water expert in the least, but what that would do to, putting them every 100 feet instead of every 200 feet, is it going to be a straight on groundwater? What would that do? I'm just kind of curious on that too. If we could maybe get the water department's opinion. Lori, it looks like Rob's raising his hand.
Yep, Rob, sorry.
I think we're really talking about a zoning change as far as the various districts here. And we're trying to support more housing and so the subjects of septic and water are all going to be subject to issuing an actual building permit. So I don't think we have to worry about that. We just have to entertain whether this is a wholesome thing for our community to change the zoning requirements to encourage more housing. And so, every project that has a permit for residential use is subject to the requirements of conservation, subject to the requirements of the Board of Health for septic design, based on the number of occupants and bedrooms, and all of those things come with the building permit. So the applicant would have to meet those requirements. What we're doing here is giving them an opportunity to increase housing in terms of zoning. So I don't think we need to focus too much on that subject.
Rob, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with that, because if we're going to create more housing and they're going to be off the water district where there's wells, and all of a sudden you have houses that have been there for years and years and years, and now you're building houses next door, and all of a sudden their wells are running dry. That is an impact that's going to impact the way we have to plan for town, because all of a sudden all those people are going to come and say, wait a second, you guys voted and recommended that we do this zoning change, but now our wells are running dry because XYZ, there's more houses, there's more strain on these water lines. I'm not a water expert in the East, I just said that, but that's definitely an impact. I mean, if you're cutting it in half, 1 acre lots with 100, there's definitely areas off the water district that are in that zone. I know that for a fact. So that's definitely an impact that I think that we need to consider and get some more clarification on, because the building inspectors, that's not part of their scope, is to say, oh yeah, like, but you get that meets the zoning bylaws, you're good to go, and then all of a sudden we have other issues. Just my 2 cents on that one.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mike, I respect your thoughts on this, and I agree with you to a point. And Robert, I agree with you in regards to our deliberation in regards to putting this together took into effect that other boards would need approvals for any of this anyway. And part of the reason why we are proposing this to you is for this type of conversation, for the Housing Authority to kind of look to see exactly what your thoughts were in it, so that we could do some more investigation. It's not that we're going to hammer out anything today. We wanted to throw it in front of you guys to say, what are your thoughts? And these thoughts are what we as the Housing Authority proposing this change want to be able to do. And I think we can scope out with the water department. We can also talk with the water commissioners, who are very well versed, Mike, into exactly what you're talking about. So yes, we would have to research that. Having said that, I do want to kind of bring this up to a 20,000 foot level and say that we do have, there are a lot of proposals within Massachusetts state legislature that are increasing housing. And yes, I know that it's a hot topic within town, but I personally would rather have us as a municipality be able to deal with these zoning changes on our own under our terms, as opposed to wait until the legislature tells us how we're supposed to have our zoning bylaws. So that's kind of why the Housing Authority is taking the initiative to go ahead and try to keep it within our municipality so that we can show the state that we are taking the initiative to be able to increase the housing under what we feel is going to support what Townsend is and what Townsend is all about.
I agree with that, Chaz. The MBTA, MBTA adjacent communities legislation, with the lack of any input from the state, it's getting a little bit better, but they just kind of did this and sent everything across the street. I 100% agree. I love this. I've lived in an area where my well ran dry frequently because it was pretty congested. And, now I live in an area that has 3 acres and 200 feet of frontage, and my well doesn't run dry. So, I'm just coming from personal experience on that. I don't know if there's other stuff, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I figured that's exactly feedback that you're looking for as well, too.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone, and Robert? Anyone else? And Chaz? Courtney, I think you did a great job on this. And I think that at least the initiative was taken and started, and it's something that has not been done for years. The last thing I remember that was done about housing in Townsend was the moratorium.
Mm-hmm.
And the town, and well, the taxpayers anyway, are suffering because of it, because the tax base is not growing with the cost of living, let alone the cost of eggs. It's really sad. I mean, you want to see your town stay the way it is, but it can't be supported by what it is, the way it is. So,
well, if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's where we're at. Nothing has changed within town for many, many years. Our tax base right now is dwindling. The situation that we're in right now, especially with the way the state is setting legislature, we as a town need to start looking at this stuff and start acting within our municipality before the state starts telling us how we have to run our town. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Lori, I just had a quick question, just because I printed this out and then my 4-year-old daughter decided that it was going to be fun and threw it on the floor. So my kids are a little bit out of whack. What was the change to the was there any change to the multifamily? Because I know that's a big thing with MBTA adjacent legislation.
Yeah, so just we will get, just before we move on to that, I want to make sure nobody has any questions about the Hammerhead lot provisions that were kind of added in here. We are asking for this, but also saying that they have to get a special permit for a Hammerhead or flag lot as a single family.
I have a couple of comments about the flag lots and hammerhead lots. I wonder where the number 40 feet access frontage came from. If we're trying to encourage more housing, I can envision there are other lots that may qualify for that if it was less restricted frontage. So I didn't know how the 40 feet came about. A general driveway width would be 24 feet. So I think there may be some movement there that would probably allow more land opportunity. And And then item D, the minimum lot width at any point will not be less than 25 feet. I don't know why, I mean, I understand kind of what the concept is there, but some of these lots are very irregular profiles. And they may not be, some of them come to a very acute point. So there'd be no, I don't know how, I just think that's more cumbersome. I'm not sure it would work in a lot of instances when, because
So
we
I do-
don't know the lot profiles will actually be.
Correct. And I
I think
it
that
could-
would encourage subdividing more lots, actually, to meet that kind of standard.
So I think, yes, they could come to a point, right, like you're saying, but I also think with the discretion under the special permit, in looking at a lot, I think a lot of what we came to with the 25 feet is that if you did have a driveway, like you're saying, that goes, through the lot and you start at, let's say, just for instance, we start at the 40 feet at the road and then it gets skinnier and skinnier before it comes out, that you at least have the room for an appropriate, driveway as you're going through. But I do think if it came to a point in the back of the lot, under the special permit, there's some discretion that the board can look at.
Well, maybe we just have to clarify that, item D, more specifically about access to the lots, maybe. It's just a suggestion, that's all.
And we did look at a lot of what was within town too, just so you know. We did look at a lot of parcels that are there. And of course, we can't guesstimate if somebody wants to subdivide, whatever they do. But we kind of looked to see what was there. And there are a lot of both Hammerhead and Flag lots that are currently in town that could possibly build on that with this particular, they wouldn't need anything else but that special permit.
Right.
So the other thing that was mentioned earlier in our meeting was we had gone through correspondence notifications, and there is a Hammerhead or shared driveway. There's a bylaw coming up in Groton, and their hearings are on March 16th in reference to this. So I had asked Beth to see if she could get us the verbiage or, what they were doing on that one, how they're addressing that issue. Maybe another idea.
Yeah, and as a special permit, it would allow the planning board to be able to really see exactly what the applicant was doing, so that you guys can determine whether or not it would fit into the grand scheme of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I think it's very, very comprehensive. I'm pretty impressed with what's going on here. I'm just, when something's presented before you have something to focus on, and you can suggest maybe options or things that may be more enhancing or whatever, or to avoid more complications. But you're absolutely correct. It's all going to be under special permit anyway. So with that, the local authority will have an idea of what may or may not be necessary on specific project.
Okay, Courtney, I guess there's maybe a few little edits that need to be done on D and E there.
Yep.
So would you take us to multifamily now?
Yep. So multifamily zoning, in the first section here that I had in italics, is just a reminder of like what's in the zoning bylaw today. So it's a pretty short kind of paragraph here. And what you can see here is it's really only allowed in two districts, RA and RB. The other thing, just quickly, is that it's a minimum lot area of 8 acres with a minimum frontage of 500 feet. So it's a pretty big lot we're looking for that's allowed here. There's some other things in here, but if we just go to the proposed here, in general, what we've done here is kind of generally allowed it in all zoning districts. That's equal to the minimum lot area allowed in that zoning district. So, for instance, like RA, if we were to currently, it's under 3 acres, but if it was amended, it would be 2 acres, right? So it's kind of what is allowed today. The other thing that we've looked at is reducing the minimum lot frontage from the 500 feet to the 100 feet, as well as some of the yard setbacks. The thing that we did change is the density. So currently what we have for density, it says not to exceed 1 apartment unit per 3 acres in residential district A and 2 acres in residential district B. So that means in RA, we really can only build what is currently our single family zoning right now. And so what we've decided to do is do it more on a sliding scale of density. So in this case, in RA, it would be 1 unit per acre. In RB, it would be 1 unit per half acre. And in all other districts, it's kind of determined by the constraints of the site and approved kind of septic designs. So what that would allow us is in an RA district, for instance, where that one is an aquifer overlay district, as we talked about, is that we have obviously less density and more density in an RB and possibly more density in things like commercial areas that are closer to the center of town. We might have the ability to actually have denser buildings in this case. Under maximum lot coverage, it's the same idea. It's kind of a sliding scale per the district. So 30% in RA, 40 in RB, and then in all other districts, it can go up a little bit higher. So that's the general dimensional constraints that we looked at. But you can see we added a few other provisions to this, just kind of looking into some other similar zoning and seeing what else we may want to add kind of to our multifamily. And we can get into that. There's a lot of parts and pieces about that. But if we want to talk a little bit about the, if anybody has any questions around the dimensional changes, I guess first.
Any questions from anybody on planning? Hearing none. Go ahead, Courtney.
Okay. So what we added was a few sections here. So one under site design. So what we were looking for here was we were kind of allowing for some separate buildings here that might be visually separated. And so we're kind of looking for that. So we're still trying to maintain the character, I guess, of our town in that way. So trying to allow for some separate kind of pieces of buildings. And different buildings would have to require some amount of separation and trees and plantings. We're also asking for things like peak stormwater runoff to not be increased in a 10-year storm, as well as for dwellings kind of served on-site by on-site water and waste, that they obviously submit a septic system prepared by an engineer. So a lot of this is so that when a special permit comes in front of us, we have opportunity to kind of evaluate these principles against what we asked for. Under building design. So what we were looking for here is to kind of keep some of the units a bit smaller. So what we said here is kind of no more than 10% of dwelling units shall have more than 2 bedrooms. So trying to keep to some of the smaller size units, which is what we really find the need is here in town. Under that, we're also asking for unoccupied basements. I guess no floor except for an unoccupied basement shall be below grade at its entire perimeter, as in we don't want people's apartments to be completely below ground. Obviously, that's not always possible anyways. And then the maximum number of stories is 3 above grade. So getting a little bit of parameters around the height as well, that kind of isn't given today under multifamily.
Courtney, can I comment on the building design?
Yep.
I support everything you've got there. However, particularly here in town, we have very distinct villages. So I think something needs to be addressed to be compatible with the architecture in these villages. It would be a travesty to have our historic buildings interrupted with a more contemporary type of style, and lose that village image. So, I think that would also be included in building the design criteria, so that the sense of the visual and sensual senses of the villages are maintained. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know, in our historic villages, Townsend Harbor, Townsend Center, West Townsend, those buildings are all pretty much, are historical in nature, no matter what specific circular they are. So it would be a travesty to have another unit placed on one of these lots that was not harmonic with the adjacent buildings and the character of the village. So that would be my recommendation on that, to add some language to that.
Do
So
we,
that
yeah, sorry, Chad.
it's okay. Living in the historic district. I agree with you, Robert. In regards to that, our thoughts on that were that the Historic District Commission is the one that would have jurisdiction over the buildings or any construction in that area. And usually, if somebody was applying for a permit or anything like that, A, the boards would point it out to them, but B, I'm sure the building commissioner would be pointing that out to the individual, that they would have to have some sort of design that is historically relevant to the area that they're building in.
Well, I understand that that's covered to a degree. But one of my concerns is, if it's in the actual zoning bylaw, that would reinforce and more focus on the topic. My experience in the past is many times these historic committees are volunteer people and not necessarily have a background in historic architecture. So to put further emphasis on that, so that they have to support more of the presentation. Again, I just know from experience that these committees change very frequently. And in other communities I've been involved with, we have people that are on these committees that are not even come from any regions in our country, are not even from New England, for example, end up being chairman of these committees. And so they don't have the focus particularly on what would be sensitive to our historic characters and the social events that created those architectural styles.
Okay.
I'm just presenting that because I personally feel it's a very important part of our town. And I want to be sure that the integrity of those villages are intact.
Okay, I respect that. And Courtney, we could add a D on that said that it has to be historically relevant in a historic district.
Yeah, we could also, make it it's a little tricky if it's a little more vague, but fitting into the surrounding character of the community. The hard part is just that is extremely subjective when you go to evaluate it, right? So I can do it either way. But the historic piece, I guess, is probably at least a little bit more tangible in terms of something to evaluate.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4, we had a circulation and parking. So what we're looking for is to have no parking area contain more than 12 spaces. That doesn't mean that you can't have 2 parking areas that for 24, but just that we're looking to have kind of those parking lots broken up so that we don't end up with a fairly large parking lot in this case. We're also referencing back to the bylaw for parking lots in B, just to reference them to that section. In C, we're looking for kind of planting or screening to block headlights to adjoining premises. So any people that are located adjacent to this won't have car headlights shining into their residence off the property. And interior roads shall be provided by services, right? So that we can make sure that it meets kind of the current subdivision control that's in our bylaws today. Okay. Exterior lighting, again, referencing back to the bylaw on that, just so we can make sure that you guys have an opportunity to evaluate that criteria. And then number 6, we added an affordability guarantee. So minimum of 10% of units to be designed as affordable under a multifamily zoning. And all of those units that are affordable should contain a deed restricted guaranteeing that the unit shall remain affordable in perpetuity from its first occupancy. So we're trying to kind of create some affordable housing with this and be able to keep that on our affordable housing kind of inventory for the life of that unit. And then we added a section here for a procedure for approval. So the application, so saying that they obviously need to apply for a special permit under this, and that it would contain plans, plans to the extent applicable for the requirements set forth under the planning board subdivision control, so that you'd have some documents associated with that. Proposed deed restrictions that we just talked about under affordability. And a concept plan, plans containing schematic development of buildings, roads, driveways, parking, reserved open space, wells, on-site disposal facilities, drainage system topography, grading, and areas of retained vegetation and plantings. We're looking for floor plans and elevations of the typical dwellings, and as well as basically telling us what type of units, how much is the habitable floor area, the distinguishment of how many units there are by bedrooms and other occupancies. So telling them basically what they need to submit for that special permit in order for the planning board to evaluate that permit.
Any comments from planning?
Courtney, just one more comment
Yeah.
following on my last one. I think the language about the historic character of the villages should apply to all building types, not just multifamily. So just so that it's not end up just for multifamily.
Do you mean that it should apply to single family and or the cluster development, or do you mean to every type of?
All the different building types, yes.
So I do
in the-
think, yeah, I do think obviously the historic district, as we talked about, would apply to any building that's in that historic district. I do think it'll be harder to put that in other areas that are not historic, you know, fit in the kind of that type of language into all other areas that are under one of those districts specifically.
I don't understand. If we're gonna do it for multifamily, we should be able to do it for single family or accessory units or anything. So, I mean, I'm glad I brought this up because the way it appeared to be going, it was for only related to multifamily housing, and that's not appropriate.
But aren't those other places that are in a historic district already covered under the provisions of being in that district, like that they already have to?
But I already explained the risk of these historic committees. And so I wanted to make this a very focused point, no matter where it was in any other historic areas. So I don't think it hurts to include it for all building types.
But how do we enforce it for all building types that aren't required to get a special permit? That are only required to go in front of a historic district?
We already have the historic districts. I think there's a lot that is not being observed in terms of protecting the character of a neighborhood. That expands not just into buildings, but it also expands into, the street views, the preservation of vegetation, tree-lined roads. So it's to continue the sense of arrival in a village and departure from a village in terms of all the elements that are involved. So, for example, you take West Townsend, for example, it's a very unique community in itself, not only in just the character of the buildings and the historic nature of the buildings, but the sense of arrival and also the continuation of the tree-lined roads and the entire sense of leaving and arriving in a village. And that many times is overlooked in zoning or not addressed in zoning, and not addressed in even historic district policy. I find a lot of historic committees establish policies based on types of windows and what colors are used and what kind of asphalt shingles are used. And I've seen developers come in and take a 1950 ranch house and put a lot of cosmetics on it, and somehow it's considered historic in nature. So those are the things that, if anything has of treasure, this town does. And so I'm a very strong advocate of protecting that sense of arrival, that village environment. And I think it may be wise to even include the word village requirement and identify them. So again, I'm not that in tune with, I'm not overly impressed with the comprehensiveness of our current historic commission. Not as a critique, but as a national observation. There are a lot of people here that just don't have the background to really think of all the elements that may be needed. And
Well, I want to jump in here, Robert, and say I appreciate your comments in regards to that, but our goal tonight is to present the planning board portion of it. We will be talking to Historic District Commission in regards to their thoughts on the matter, so we can cover those particular ones. But the focus here tonight is on the planning board side of it, and we'll address the historic district with the Historic District Commission.
Thank you, Chaz. Okay, everyone. Earlier in the meeting, I promised that we would leave by 8. We have addressed all of our business. So we do have about 4 minutes left. If, Courtney, is there any other part of this that you need to continue with? Because we weren't done through the whole thing, but if you could just,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Courtney.
So I would say if you guys have a chance to take a read through this residential cluster development and let us know if you do have any comments on it. This one's fairly long, so I won't get through it in 5 minutes. But what we are trying to do is to create some opportunities for cluster developments, which are smaller kind of allow for smaller housing, I guess, on sites. So there are some provisions in here that are trying to basically create kind of push developers to create smaller types of housing than what we're seeing today being built everywhere. And so if you take a look at this and read through it and let us know if you have any questions on this, but it's really kind of geared towards kind of cottage dwelling units.
Yes, which was one of the things we were hoping could become popular, in this area, especially for senior individuals who want to downsize yet stay in the community they've been into for a long time. So hopefully that does happen. And of course, this is the first go around of putting this out and getting Housing Authority to explain to other departments. And hopefully, they'll have more meetings coming up with the other departments and can put this all together maybe within the next month or so, and have something to end up having to present to the town and have public hearings on, which would be the next steps.
Right.
I actually really liked this section of it. Housing starts for what I call starter homes, which is 1,800 square feet or below, are down to less than 7% of the current new builds for residential right now. So if there's any other way to incentivize this and kind of restore us back to a normal housing cycle, I think that's what the legislation is looking for. So I think this was a great little add-in that we could do. I don't know if there's any other incentives that we could do, because unfortunately these just aren't as profitable for builders right now either. So that was my only comment on that one.
Well, we were looking on both ends. We were looking for starter homes and for people who are downsizing. So we figured we'd get them from both sides.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're seeing in the housing industry as a whole right now, is the people downsizing are going for these starter homes because they don't have these 55 plus developments or anything like that. And the boomers are just outnumbering the millennials right now. So the housing structure cycles all out of wax right now.
Mhm.
Well, I thank you all very much for your input tonight. Courtney, would you like to close your meeting? We're at like 7:58 now.
So it is 7:59 now, and I'd like to close the.
Yep.
Close the meeting for the Townsend Housing Authority.
I move that we adjourn the Housing Authority.
Second motion.
Great. Roll call, please.
Natalie Call, yes.
Chad Sexton, Duranian, yes.
And Laura Schifrin, yes. Planning board members, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting now at 7:59 plus PM.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the planning board at 7:59 PM.
I second.
I'll call, all those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Robert
Yep.
Shearing.
Yes.
Mike Roscoe, yes.
And Ian, is Ian still here?
Ian Ortiz, yes.
Yes. And Laura Schifrin, yes. Thank you all very much.